Hello, welcome to Intentional Community Conversations with Intend Indiana. My name is Steven Meyer. I'm the Chief Executive Officer here at Intend. In this series, we spend some time talking about topics about community development and resources available through Intend and our partners. Today, I'm speaking with Imhotep Adisa, Executive Director at the Kheprw Institute, an organization working to create a more just, equitable, human-centered world by nurturing young adults to be leaders, critical thinkers, and doers. I'm excited to have the opportunity to chat with him today and to discuss his mission, our partnership, and the impact on community. Welcome, Imhotep. How are you this morning?
Hey, Steve, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Can you just talk a little bit about what you do and the mission behind Kheprw Institute?
Sure. Kheprw is a 20-year-old 501c3, um, founded by myself, Paulette Fair, and Pambana. Um, and we fundamentally we launched it because our own children, her grandson, my son, needed some additional enrichment programs during the summer to keep these young African American males off the streets, et cetera, et cetera. So we've used the social enterprise as a platform for leadership development. And the art of the start has been one of the key themes of our work. Start where you are, what you have. So we fast forward to the present. 15 to 20 of our day-to-day crew are under 30. They are responsible for operating all the various enterprises that we work with from our what we call our community wealth building model. And that's basically creating opportunities to build leadership development and resource development and people development. And all our work is people driven, people first, people first, people first, and relationship driven. So there's nothing we do that's purely about financial capital. It's always tied to how do we engage relationships in our spaces and serve the various members in our community that are looking to improve the quality of lives in our community. That's in a nutshell. Do that through four E's: education, economy, environment, and empowerment. And we kind of create that rubric to craft and navigate those spaces. So right before we hopped on the call here, I just had a morning session with three of our youth leaders. Alvin Sings Wang, who works with us with a 10, he's 36. Uh, Rasul, who does our Salesforce IT work, he's 26. And last but not least, Johnny, who is just turned 21 years old. And these guys come in every morning from about a half hour before they start the day, and we kind of review the day, review the lessons learned, and the various challenges that come with being young and still having to be responsible for trying to get work done. And that's the model. Each of those guys have been involved in our work in some form or fashion for easily 10 years each. So they're OGs in the work, but they actually still young, and they actually then have the responsibility of supporting and mentoring some of the new young people that are coming to our space, and also some of the older people who are new to the Kheprw culture. They're the leaders to move that forward. I think I'll stop there.
Well, that's a lot, and I definitely want to come back to the leadership development because I think that's something that you and I are both really passionate about. But just to start the conversation around partnership and the partnership between Intend and Kheprw really started formally, I guess I would say, with when we launched the Indy AMP program, which is a mortgage refinance program that we launched together with some bank partners and the city of Indianapolis. It was a response to COVID, really trying to be thoughtful about how we preserve home ownership, especially in neighborhoods that were hit hardest by COVID. And so that was really the first time we worked together in a formal way, first partnership. Do you want to talk about like how it
Yeah,
started? And
wasn't that the fall of 2020?
yes, it was.
Yeah. Well, I'm a storyteller, so I'm spiced up a little bit in how I share. It's there. So historically, we live and work in community. And at that time, the city of Minneapolis, I think Jeff Bennett was still a deputy mayor, was talking with 10, and we're looking to take some of the city financing and support communities that are in need of these kinds of dollars, and wanted maybe more of a grassroots flavor to the word Kheprw. So Kheprw was contacted. We topped it up, and we've been talking with uh, Jeff even before he was at the city. I think I met Jeff when he was over at IFF when they were out of Chicago. But long story short, it was a shotgun marriage. So I say, look, Tim, we got this money. Kheprw, can you guys help? Can we find a way to work together? And that's really how we really come to figure out and build this project together. And I think we served up about 36 mortgage refinancing in the space. It actually was, again, from leadership development, a classroom to help Al and other members of our team learn something that we had never, ever really engaged ourselves with in the work. The financial side, the housing side, and just a lot of lessons learned and still learning through the relationship. On the human side, for example, when we went to put the program together, we had a senior on our team, Kathy. How was Kathy? I think it's about 60. And she came through the Goodwill program, CSEP. And Goodwill has this retraining program where they take seniors, they pay them a small stipend to be trained for skill development, and then from that skill development, in an ideal world, find other meaningful employment. So Kathy was on our team through CSEP, the CSEP program, 2 years long. She finished the 2 year program. We were able through this initiative to bring Kathy in. She lives in Martindale Brightwood to support the admin side of work, helping other residents fulfill out their the paperwork to leverage these opportunities. And so that's the human side of work I was referring to earlier. She comes out of the neighborhood. She's a senior and still lives in the Martindale Brightwood area. And that's how we began to build the program. I think you have to talk, Steve, about how much money moved through the program because I forgot how much. I know it was $4 or $5 million, maybe.
Yeah, it was about $5 million altogether, and I think you hit on two things that are really important. The money, the technical side of what we do, and you and I talk about this a lot. You know, growing your organization and making sure that the organization is strong is really important. I think it's something that you and I spend a lot of our time on. But when you're talking about programs, especially programs like Indie Amp, I think it's underappreciated how much effort goes into connecting these opportunities to people and making sure that they're real for the folks who are living in the neighborhoods that we're trying to serve, and these programs are for them, and they can take advantage of them. And I think that is it's one of the things I appreciate more and more the longer that we're doing this is how much those relationships matter, how much trust matters, because behind the scenes, there's a lot of technical work that happens, but it doesn't really matter that much if you're not actually reaching the people that you're trying to help.
Yeah, I agree. I think of course, this has been a heavy lift for us in a good way, but being able to look and see the complexities of it gives us at the ground level more understanding of the challenges. And then it really helps us talk with other folks in our community around how to navigate some of the challenges of the bureaucracy and be accessible. And the accessibility comes actually just being able to pick the phone up, call somebody, and say, hey, look, this is happening, that's happening. Kathy, for example, she'll get folks to get at her, and then she'll get at Alvin, and then we walk backwards and try to figure it out. So there's a lot goes in behind it, and when you're not on the back end, you often don't have the same kind of appreciation once you've had the opportunity to look at it. And then also, truth of the matter, at the ground level, the whole thing around trust, for example, communities of colors have a lot of reasons not to trust traditional approaches to government and nonprofit. Not that the nonprofits are necessarily trying to do anything out of order, but just a long history of mistrust for reasons that we can talk about on another show another time. And being able to partner with Steve and Stephanie and others, have these guys come over for lunch, meet other members of the community, puts a human side to the work. So it's not just the there are people that run these institutions, and they have a human side also, often hindered by the challenges of bureaucracy and funding. But there are people within these spaces that are trying to improve and make our community better.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. And I think we've been, both you and I have been pretty straightforward with each other about what those challenges are. And I think Indie Amp is, again, one of those programs where uh, mutual learning has made it better. I know we, both in how we deliver it, but also how we are structuring the program. Um, we kind of launched this, like you said, a shotgun wedding. Um, we went from an idea to launching the program in a few months, which is, incredibly fast. But then we took some time and reflected on how the first year went. We identified some ways that it could be better, how we could help more people. And really, we did make some really significant changes. We lowered the threshold for income to really focus on the lower income folks more. We allowed uh, unsecured debt to be rolled into their mortgage, so people who had put expenses on their credit card wouldn't be excluded from this program. And then I think to the human side, we also decided to spend more time on that one-on-one navigation and really making sure that people don't get lost in how complex the system is. So, I think this is a really good example of how true partnerships work, where you take the time to evaluate how things are working, and you take feedback from other folks, and you make the best decision you can.
Yeah, ditto that. It just requires a lot of adaptiveness, and all folks don't always prepare themselves. As okay, what can we do differently? How can we tweak and stay within the guidelines of the requirements? But how can we improve on these processes that allow us to get to the end goal, which is helping people in the community? So yeah, I've enjoyed the relationship so far in that space. Steve doesn't like to tell you though, but his background's in philosophy, so he's a pretty deep thinker. He might be a little overthinking at times, but I enjoy getting together and chopping up around things that are just not always housing in nature. So
Yeah, our conversations are wide ranging, I would say. So, thinking about, you've been around for a while, and we've been working together for a little bit. You guys kind of got into the housing space around this time. Um, we started working together, really thinking more deeply about how Kheprw can be involved in housing. Do you have any thoughts about how that's going? What the
well,
future of that looks like for you?
uh, we're involved with the Community Land Trust too, with the City of Indianapolis, and we are looking closely and talking with folks around the country every week around the CLT model. I'm learning more about housing, just generally, both the financing side, what's going on with the feds, et cetera, Federal Reserve Bank, housing challenges, not only locally, but nationally and globally. And so my wife always says, if it's not impossible, you're not interested in being involved in it. So right now, this housing challenge does strike me as huge and not looking, does not appear to be mitigated anywhere near soon. But I'm looking forward to working with Attend, Steve, and others around how can we best impact the challenge of affordable housing in our communities in some really, 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 really challenging times. I have no idea what it looks like. Alan was our lead in this. His job is to go in and look at all these pieces. My job is to meet with him and say, man, that don't make any sense. Are you sure about that? And just trying to intentionally punch holes in our analysis, not to tear it apart, but to try to improve the quality of whatever we decide to do strategically together as we assess the spaces. So the sky's the limit, and this is a great time to be involved in this kind of work, not because of the challenge, because when things get as challenging as this, it provides opportunities for people to consider doing things differently and maybe even a little bit more out of the box than we would under relatively safe waters.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And the CLT is another tool that we can use, but we just don't have enough tools. We don't have enough money to deal with the size and scope of the problem that we're dealing with. But I do want to go back to your comments about being agile and especially around leadership development, and get your thoughts about things like housing. You kind of have to start and know that you're going to make mistakes, and for young people in the industry, sometimes that's daunting, like the fear of making mistakes. Just wanted to get your thoughts about like how you help coach folks through that process of
Yeah.
overcoming those fears.
We push them out in the water. Hey, they fall down. It depends on, each young person, what we call is an IEP. They all have their own unique learning styles and needs. I'll give one quick story. It was really funny the other day. Not specific to the housing, but related to youth development. And I was invited to attend a dinner between some Black and Jewish leaders in the city of Indianapolis up on College Street. And there's a young man, his name is Adam. He works in our social media work with a partnership we're doing with Roe. And his first day, he was supposed to come over and fill out the paperwork. And I had a scheduling conflict. So I called him. I said, hey, Adam, man, I can't meet with you today, but I got to go to this dinner between Black and Jews leadership on College. You want to go? Yes. So I said, all right, man, meet you up there. So we get up there, and everybody's going around introducing themselves. About 20 people there. Gets around to Adam, and Adam says, I'm Adam. I'm white and Christian from Batesville, Indiana, and I'm with the Kheprw Institute. And I just laughed on the inside, right? So I said, hey, Adam, how long you been here? This is my first day. And so another member of the place said, man, you just throw them in the water, don't you? So yeah, that's really been our approach. Toss them in the water. We own residence where a lot of our youth leaders live within our residence. So they build community with each other real time. And they're in the meeting now, for example, every morning, a core group of our team meets and review their week, their plans, and hold each other very highly accountable to the work that goes on. The OGs in the space, we're challenged to remember when we were young, and just show grace when young people make mistakes, for them to get up, get back at it, and so that's in a nutshell. I will say I'm beginning to look a little closer at how young people who grew up in the cell phone era, what kind of challenges they have related to learning and doing and being. We had a meeting last week, on a dinner meeting, and it just dawned on me, just listening to them, reading is not fundamental. And when we were kids, we read a lot of books when we were growing up, at least the nerds in our space. And the nerds in this space, these young people prefer computer games as their primary go-to. So, as older people learning how to adjust, adapt, utilize other tools. So, for example, there's some book called Babel that Alvin's read. It's a book about the future, sci-fi, tied up in all the technology pieces. I'm listening to that book. so I can then engage and have conversation with them around something that they have interest in. So it's difficult right now. The biggest challenge for us, I think, at least for me, is marrying the idea of turning the vehicle over to you to practice and learn at this size. In the early days, we give you the keys to the tricycle, but you won't go any faster than 25 miles an hour. So now you're flying a starship fleet, and you pass the keys over to someone without any experience. You have to watch them real closely, otherwise, they crash the whole ship. So it's a dance. It's forward moving. And lastly, I think we're blessed to have at least out of that group of young people that I mentioned earlier, under 30 or 30 and under, we've got at least 5 or 6 in our space that have been in the work at least for a decade or longer. So they get it. They understand you got to go out and make mistakes, fall down, get up. I think another challenge, for whatever reason, this space attracts A students, and A students are very uh, anti making mistakes. They don't like to do anything unless they got the answer all right. So on. They want to spend a lot of time in preparing and not taking the ball and shooting it. So we trying to figure out how to get more C student attitudes into the culture of Kheprw, which is okay. Go out and experiment, learn, meet folks, talk to people you don't like. In fact, talk to more people that you disagree with than people that you agree with, because you likely learn more from those folks than you will from folks that agree with you all the time. So, and that's another piece of the challenge of that piece. But we'll see what happens.
I completely agree with you. I think that's one of the hardest things to learn is the comfort of making a decision with maybe 75% of the information that you need to make the decision. So 75 may be generous sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Baseball, very in the game of baseball, you have more strikeouts than you have home runs or getting on base. So you got to swing at the ball.
yeah. I mean, somebody who strikes out 7 out of 10 times can still be an all-star. So
there you go.
well, I appreciate your time today, and I certainly appreciate our partnership and our friendship, and I'm looking forward to joining you on the front porch again soon. I think we have one coming up, so that'll be exciting.
Sounds good. Hey, you get to see our library we set up too, man. We set a library up last week, and being the intellectual you are, I'm sure you would appreciate come over and checking our books out. And I have to, otherwise I might be terminated. I have to end with, don't forget, donate.kheprw.org.
Excellent. And, I think we'll do this again where we will talk about philosophy. We'll talk about the future. And I think that'll be a really exciting conversation as well.
Hey, I'm ready. Just call me back. Maybe I'll invite one of the Afrofuturists in from the Kheprw spaceship.
That would be fantastic.
All right, man.
Well, I'd also like to thank everybody for watching and tuning into the Intentional Community Conversations with Intend Indiana. I'd like to thank Imhotep for your time this morning, and I hope everybody enjoyed themselves, and more importantly, I hope everybody learned something. So have a great day. Go make your community better today.
All right, see you on the porch, man.